So we made good, fast progress with chapter 18 because, like I said, it's all summary. So far we've finished all the, we talked about the different sattva, rajas, tamas categories of a lot of things, starting from chapter 17, the Shraddha Traya Vibhag and all that, and then to chapter 18, the initial portion. I think we talked about just a few are left. I think the last one is left, which is happiness. How does Gita or Bhagavan Krishna define happiness? We did talk about the mind, right? The mind, which mind is sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. And then we
Yeah,
talked
we
about
did.
the, yeah, okay. And then resolve, this is the other thing. Dhriti. I think we touched upon that last time also. It's very,
What
very
is the meaning of Dhriti? I
resolve.
was listening.
Yeah,
Resolve. Okay.
yeah, resolve. So if you have an unflinching resolve, with which one sustains by practice the activities of the mind, prana, and organs of action and knowledge. That is sattvic. So, unflinching resolve on knowledge. And not just on the knowledge, but also on your own control of your own senses and so on. That is sattvic resolve. And then there's a more worldly resolve where we say, I am resolving I will be a doctor. मैं बड़े होकर डॉक्टर बनूंगी. Or I will be the best doctor. Or I will I will be a doctor very useful to humanity. I'm going to cure some disease, something like that. Any of these kinds of resolves, which are for either your pleasure and security today, or for, as he calls it, religious merit, or even for, just for doing good, so that you can gain punya. All that resolve is called rajasic resolve. And then the resolve by which the one whose thinking is improper, deluded guy, does not give up excess of sleep, fear, sorrow, depression, intoxication is tamasic. So, you can see the resolve of people who are, they may be focused on one thing, just one thing, and deluded by that, and get, they can go crazy about it because they can get depressed because they're not getting that one thing. They will be given to intoxication or drugs or things like that because of the pain of that thing. So, in general, I think if you see in many cases, um, the pattern here is that the sattvic is very clear. Sattvic is anything to do with antakarna shuddhi, with knowledge of Brahman, self knowledge. That is really sattvic. But Rajasic has to do with living well in this world. Living well meaning a balanced life, a balanced, objective understanding of this world, but no real knowledge of Brahman. And Tamasic is what he calls, what you'd say, an unbalanced existence, like a complete fascination or obsession for one thing or few things which make your life unbalanced. So, for example, even in knowledge, he had said that if your knowledge is just single minded and you're just thinking about one thing and that's all you think is the answer to everything, it's almost like a junoon, you know. When you have something like that, that is tamasic because that doesn't give you a clean mind, a happy mind in this world. It's not, you have superimposed your own, something of your own, some obsession or desire, something of your own on the world. So you see more value in one thing than everything, rather than having a balanced understanding. So it comes, that is the pattern. But when he talks about Rajasic is a objective understanding of the world. So you can almost say that Rajasic is readiness towards being sattvic. So you go from tamasic to rajasic, and then from rajasic to sattvic. That's the idea. And sattvic is karam yoga. That is sattvic. Or gyan. That is sattvic. You have an understanding of Brahman. You realize that there is Brahman. You want to follow the knowledge of Brahman, or gain knowledge of Brahman. That's how he defines sattvic. Okay. Then the final point he makes, which is all of this put together, is then he calls happiness. So he says in 1836, listen to me now, Bharat Arshabha, about the threefold happiness, that in which one discovers joy by repeated practice of meditation and gains the end of sorrow, which in the beginning is like poison, and when there is transformation is like nectar. That happiness is called sattvic, born of the clarity of self-knowledge. So he is defining sattvic happiness as the cessation of sorrow. Again, this is another theme in the Gita. Before also he's talked about this in some chapter earlier. I forget the precise shlok. But he says that, yeah, the yoga of the dissociation of the association with sorrow. Remember that he said that. He says what happens is we get our natural state is no association with sorrow. But we get associated with sorrow because of our desires. We get associated with things and then we get associated with sorrow. When we cease that association with sorrow through knowledge, that's called the yoga of the dissociation of the association with sorrow. That is sattvic happiness. That means you cease to get associated with sorrow, meaning your ignorance, which causes the sorrow, goes away. That is sattvic happiness. And he says in the beginning, this could be painful because there's a process involved, but eventually it's like nectar. Okay. In the beginning, it might be painful in the sense that there is discipline involved in Karam Yoga and other disciplines. He's asking you in the beginning to do certain things by resolve, not get carried away by your feelings, not given to desire. Whereas if you give in to desire, in the beginning, it seems like the easiest thing to do. It's the most fun thing. You have some source of pleasure, you just give yourself to it. So in the beginning, that is a lot of pleasure, but soon it turns to bitterness or it turns to sorrow because you're relying on something which is impermanent for your happiness. You're relying on sense pleasure. So that is not sattvic. So let's continue. So this was in two shlokas, he said this, 36 and 37. Then 38 is the happiness arising from the contact of a sense organ with its object, which in the beginning is like nectar, and when it changes is like poison, is considered rajasa. So he doesn't say if it changes, he says when it changes. You know, when if you're in a if you have if you derive your happiness through anything which is external, and that is through sense organs, that's what he means. Then in the beginning, it's a lot of pleasure, but then it changes and it becomes like poison because everything changes. All things change. Finally, he says that happiness, which in the beginning and at the end is self-deluding and born of sleep, laziness, and indifference, is called tamasic. Okay. So again, I don't think there's anything new or surprising in this, right?
But that second one, which is the Rajasic happiness, which
Right,
is world, that encompasses all worldly happiness, and that
right,
encompasses relationships.
right. Yeah. So if you are looking for happiness through relationships, right, and it's without, and you don't have the self-knowledge, then relationships will turn because the expectation is there of happiness,
Yeah,
which the relationships cannot provide. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't have relationships. It just means that to have the right expectation from relationships, we must know what they can give and what comes from us.
yeah.
Rajiv, Mukta,
Yeah, fine.
anything surprising or different here in these three? Any question?
No, it's okay.
Huh?
It's fine.
Rajiv?
Yeah, I'm just thinking through it. It
Huh?
seems consistent with what
What
we've
we've
been
learned?
learning about these
Huh?
categories, right?
He just very clearly states it here. It
Mhm.
summarizes it, in three buckets so that there is no doubt remaining. And just keep in mind the order of tamasic to rajasic to sattvic. That's how we proceed. Okay. All
But
right. And
everybody has a part of all the three.
yes, of course.
The it may be different in different people. The
Yeah,
three,
different
the ratio may be
proportions.
different.
Yeah,
Yeah, different proportions. But we do have all three,
right.
whatever said and done.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, the next verse says that 1840. It says that there is no existent being either on earth or furthermore in heaven among the gods who is free from three gunas born of Prakriti.
Hmm.
Okay. So all the three are there. It's a matter of proportion and what your, um, so you can think about the three gunas in two ways, right? One is that these three gunas are the components of Maya. So Maya itself is made out of these three gunas. That means the world and Maya includes us. I mean, our body and mind, and our feelings and emotions. All these things we are talking about. We are not talking about Brahman here. There's no question of any gunas and gradation and things like that in Brahman. There's no Rajasic, Tamasic. Brahman is only pure consciousness. So everything other than Brahman is what we are talking about, which means everything which has to do with the world, whether it's relationships, whether it's knowledge, whether it's anything you can think of. And that is just, you can look at it scientifically or objectively and say it is composed of sattva rajas tamas, which we did earlier. You remember we talked about it when I introduced sattva rajas tamas. We talked about how they are the components of maya. That's how the world is built. That's how maya functions. Maya is nothing but these three gunas. Okay. And here he's talking, but here he's not talking about it from abhi tak jo bola tha till now. He didn't talk about the three gunas as the components of Maya. He used them as a framework to describe bad, better, and best. So he just added a value judgment to it and said Satvik is the best. If you have to get to knowledge, you have to go to Satvik, and then from Satvik to um, complete knowledge, self knowledge. So here he described it as a framework. But now he's coming back and saying there's no existent being on earth who is free from the three gunas. And he means both here. He means, of course, that there's no way you can have Maya without. There can be no being, there can be nothing without Maya, because Maya is the foundation, is what builds the world. And Maya consists of these three. So everybody has these three. Plus, even otherwise, as qualities too, we all have these three, but we have different proportions. And you can see this in yourself. All these things you can see. You can say, in the past, I was like this, now I'm like this. Maybe not completely, but a little bit more. You can see these three gunas in yourself, depending on the situations. Then he says the duties of the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudra are divided according to the qualities born of Swabhava. That's Ishwar's Maya, which is one's nature and one's karma. So this also, I don't know whether you remember, but in chapter 4 or chapter 5, he talked about the two varnas of two ways to look at varna. One is to look at varna from your lineage, your work that you do based on, like the caste system. Who is born to do what work? What is my swadharma? That determines my varna. He's just repeating this here. He's summarizing it. So, like they say, the son of a Brahman should become a Brahman. He's got his swadharma is to become a Brahman. That's one way to look at it. And the other is to look at it from qualities. So a Brahman, the other way to look at it is to say it doesn't matter whether the person is born a Brahman or born a Shudra, whatever. If you have the qualities of a Brahman, you're a Brahman. And if you have the qualities of a Kshatriya, you're a Kshatriya. And Gita emphasizes the second way. Krishna Bhagavan has always emphasized the second way of looking at the Varnas. So you develop your Swadharma. Varna is your Swadharma. What is it that you are born to do? You develop that from your interests and your qualities rather than from your lineage. So he's repeating that here. The duties of a Brahmana, Kshatriya, etc. are divided according to qualities born of Swabhava. Then next one, composure, restraint, religious discipline, cleanliness, shaucha, accommodation, rectitude, knowledge, assimilated knowledge, accepting the veracity of the Vedas, Shraddha, are collectively the duties born of nature of a Brahmana. So he's saying, what is a Brahmana? He just described this as like a Karam Yogi, right? Is a person who has composure, restraint, religious discipline, um, cleanliness, internal and external cleanliness. He's accommodating, or she, rectitude, knowledge, etc. Shraddha. So this is the quality of a Brahmana. So you can see when you should be a Brahmana as this person. Then valor, self-confidence, resolve, adroitness, not running away from conflict, giving, and overlordship. That means, be a good leader, are the natural born duties and disposition of a Kshatriya. Again, not surprising, just a repetition, just summarizing. Agriculture, tending cattle, and commerce are the natural duties of a Vaishya. And the natural duty of a Shudra is the form of service. If you're born to serve and you want to serve, that's a Shudra. So he nowhere has he said that it's a caste system. He's just saying, based on your qualities, this is why we think about the four varnas. And then he continues, a man who delights in his own duty gains success. This is a very important verse, very often quoted. Listen to how one devoted to his own duty finds success. Through one's duty, worshipping him from whom the creation is of the beings, by whom all this is pervaded, a human being gains success. This is this is the heart of Karam Yoga, in a way. And I'll explain to you. One's own duty, devoid of merit, is better than the duty of another, well done. Doing action enjoined according to one's nature, one does not gain any blemish. Okay. The karma that is natural, which is according to one's birth, Konteya, though defective, one should not give up, because all undertaking are covered with fault, like fire is covered with smoke. So he's in these verses, he's talking about Swadharma. पहले उसने बताया था स्वधर्मा का the four varnas. Your varna is chosen by your swadharma. So one way that Hinduism looks at this, and that is a bad, like sort of a wrong reading, I think, is by saying anybody who's born into a Brahmin family is a Brahmin, Shudra family is a Shudra. That's how the caste system has developed. Because they say your Swadharma depends upon where you're born. But Gita says your Swadharma depends upon your qualities. And that Swadharma determines whether you're a Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or a Shudra. And it's never saying that one is better than the other. The only thing it's saying is that the Brahman is what you should strive to be, because the Brahman is which leads you, is the jumping off point to Jnani, to moksha. And then after having said that there is this Swadharma, which Varna you're in, then he says, it's best to do what you are born to do. Don't try to do somebody else's Swadharma. And this is another way to look at Karma Yoga. A nice way to look at Karma Yoga. Because even if your Swadharma seems to be like difficult or not productive or whatever, blemished, do your Swadharma. See, when would you like to do something which is somebody else's Swadharma? Meaning that you're not, let's say you're a musician and you just, music is what you do. It's very clear to you that this is your, composing music is your thing, right? You get the joy that you get from work, you get from doing music. When would such a person say, okay, instead of doing music, I'll become a bank teller, or I'll go start doing accounting in a bank? You typically you start doing it when you are not getting your results from music. Like you're saying, oh, I want to be rich, or I want to have security, and I'm not getting security and money from music. Then you will start thinking about somebody else's Swadharma. And that is not Karam Yoga. So he says, don't do that. Don't think that the results are the important part which should determine your karma or your Swadharma. Let your Swadharma determine your karma. So this is another, in his summary, he's given another, I mean, he's already talked about Swadharma, and we've talked about this before also. We have forgotten. I don't even know whether I talked to you or some other group, not the three. But this is what he said. This is another way to look at Karam Yoga, which means try to get pleasure from your job. And you get pleasure from your work when you're doing your Swadharma. Okay. What else did he say here about Swadharma? So he says, like, very clearly, one's own duty devoid of merit is better than the duty of another well done, even if it's well done. Doing action enjoined according to one's nature, one does not gain any blemish.
Uh, can I
Uh-huh.
hear? But this Swadharma and this Varna, isn't it the old times thing now? Does it still apply like that?
I think the Varna may be not needed. It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Because we don't have to say Kshatriya. He's trying to convey a point, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
in order
that's
to
okay.
make distinctions between what should be done, what should not be done, etc., he's conveying them in buckets. So Pele he said, Sattva, this is Rajasic, this is Tamasic. We don't really need to know all that detail. It doesn't matter. We know what's the
Yeah,
right thing to do.
that's okay, huh?
Same thing here. He's not describing the qualities in terms of Brahmana, Vaishya, Shudra, etc., Kshatriya, etc. So we don't really need to know this. It doesn't matter. And you're right, it's probably more old time. But the important point here is that he is leading through this framework. He is trying to get to a point. The
Okay.
point is understand your Swadharma and then follow your Swadharma. That's the point.
But then how do we define the Swadharma?
You don't have to define it. You'll know when you're following your Swadharma.
Okay.
You'll know whether you are, like, did you ever doubt that teaching was a good profession for you? Did you ever want to get into a different profession? I mean, not, there are always moments of, things.
Yeah.
Did you get satisfaction and joy from teaching? If you did, it is your Swadharma. And it'll help you because if you're getting joy from your job, you will be less focused on the results. Even if you make a little less money, you'll still be okay if you're getting joy from the job. But if you're doing a job which is not natural to you, which is not your thing, and the only reason you're doing it is because of money or because of some other circumstance, then, I mean, eventually it doesn't matter. If you're a Gyani, it really doesn't matter. All this doesn't matter. But if you're not a Gyani and you're trying to be a Karam Yogi, then it'll be harder for you to be a Karam Yogi when you're trying to do a work or a job which is not consistent with your abilities or consistent with your desire or what you call Swadharma, which you're born to do. Like, let's say my mindset is of a philosopher. If I say, you know, इसमें कोई पैसा नहीं है, I want a steady life, I'll go and join the army. Like, a person like me goes, joins the army, it'll be a misery for me and the army both. Because I have no desire for, fit by making my body fit. I have no real feelings of animosity towards Pakistan or any enemy. I really, I'd rather talk to them than fight to with them. So my nature, my Swadharma is not of this kind of a Swadharma. In fact, it's not even, I realize it's not even a corporate Swadharma, which I was doing. And the reason I was doing it is because I got I am Ahmedabad. And who gives up I am Ahmedabad? And you see your life, you get good jobs after that, easy money. Right. So I didn't follow my Swadharma if I look at myself carefully. That was not a good thing. Anyway, but these are all learning experiences. It's not all bad, but it's a learning experience. But if I had understood Gita properly, if I was ready to understand the Gita, if I was ready for Karam Yoga and all of that, I would have probably taken a different course. And many of us do that. It's not just one. But at some stage in life, we begin to understand and then we say, okay, are we doing what I really want to do? Or am I just kind of in a rut? It's very hard to be a Karam Yogi when you're just in a rut. But if you're doing something which you are passionate about, which is coming naturally to you, which is giving you enjoyment, it's already the battle is half done. Because you will be focused on the now in the doing of the work, in getting the pleasure. That is what he's trying to say. It's just like having a purpose consistent with Sudharma. All these things they're not necessary. You should be able to, if you are completely at peace and if you have complete control over yourself and you're not bothered by the ups and downs of life, it really doesn't matter what you're doing. You will find pleasure in whatever you're doing. Eventually, that is true. Every work has value. And if you can see that every work has value, you'll find pleasure in it. Everything has to be done. But that is an advanced stage, slightly more advanced stage, not completely end of Karam Yoga, but slightly more advanced stage. So for a person who's beginning, who's much more in a samsari, having a swadharma and a purpose helps. or rather a purpose aligned with your Swadharma helps. That's the message here. Does that make sense?
Actually,
Huh?
it does make sense, but actually I was thinking, if you really look at the things, how many, I mean, people, whatever they want to do, actually they want to do, but they are doing something else.
Many
Circumstances make them
force
or
you.
force them, or the circumstances just come around you, and you are doing something different, totally something different.
Correct.
And whether you like it or not, that is a different. After getting into that, see, here now we are talking about profession basically.
Hmm.
And then you might like what you are doing, you might not, but you have to earn. So doesn't it somewhere, it goes down to that karam phal, whatever your past karma and all that stuff also might be the guiding forces, guiding the
Absolutely.
circumstances and
Yeah,
so
yeah,
many things.
yeah.
And
No,
how
you're right.
much for the, so see, so many children sit for the entrance exam for the engineering itself. They are, or some of them may not be wanting to do it, but they are sitting for it because it gets you money or whatever
Yeah.
the reasons may be. But then I don't know, I mean, I was just made to think, my mind started thinking on these lines just now only after during this discussion.
No, no, it's true. It's true. It's true that not everything is in your hands, right?
Yeah,
So if you're born in India during the 60s, 70s, the times when we were born,
yeah.
the chances that you will end up with a profession exactly that you want were difficult, were less. And that maybe that has to do with the karma. But we still have
Hmm.
some will, some
Free
decision
will.
making. Yeah. So
Yeah.
he's talking about whatever we have, how do we apply it?
Okay. Okay.
And as to also as to our choice, look, I mean, it's true that maybe very precisely I'd say this is exactly what I wanted to do precisely. Maybe I
Even the children don't know
right. But
at that time.
generally we know. See, in very, very big buckets we know.
Hmm.
Whether we want to become a doctor or not, there is
Hmm.
something in us which
Hmm.
uh, makes us want to be a doctor, which makes it, some people can become a doctor because their parents force them.
Yeah.
I know that also, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm saying in general terms, like army is a case in point.
Hmm.
People who join the army, they have something compelling them to go there. You
Yeah.
look at even our own
Definitely.
classmates,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Sunil joined the army, realized this is
But
not my Swadharma. He left, right?
yeah.
That is
Yeah.
also a clear
True.
example.
That is also there. Yeah.
We had a choice between engineering and science. There was something which made us choose between engineering drawing versus physics, chemistry, biology,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So so something is operating. May not be for everybody, may not be for all.
Hmm.
And the
No,
other thing
that's true.
is that I think this situation is more true for India, where we
Hmm.
have so little opportunity, or you used to. Now I don't know what it is like. In our time, we had very little opportunity. The choice between the professions which give you money and the institutions which lead you to money was
Yeah.
very different. That was very different than if you don't get those. You'll be like struggling. But if you
Hmm.
look at America, that is not the case at all.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which college you go to, actually. Literally doesn't matter. Makes no difference.
Hmm.
Maybe
Okay.
in the beginning, first job, it might make some difference if you've gone to Harvard or something. But eventually, it makes no difference. And if you want to do this job or that job, people, I mean, look at my children and other children that I see, they don't think about which profession is going to give me more money. They're not thinking like that at all. In fact, we tell them, I tell my children, guys, be practical. But they don't think like that. In comparatively speaking. Of course, everybody is interested.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at it across times and across countries, there is some freedom of choice, or there is some degree to which we can choose. And he's just saying that to the extent you can, just like saying, can you be even a Karam Yogi? That also depends on your past karmas. Whether you get exposed to Gita depends on your past karmas, right?
True.
So to the extent that you can, understand the value of Swadharma as a enabler to Karam Yoga. That's what he's trying to say. So that's the reason why Gita emphasizes Swadharma so much. Or rather, people emphasize Swadharma so much. You see many teachers talk a lot about Swadharma when it comes to Gita, especially in Karam Yoga. Other questions? See, we went so fast. We are now at 47.
I think I just wanted to
Mm.
say something here. My view is so much of a success of a child is measured by how much money he makes, no matter, what society you are brought up with, whatever forces you are brought up. I think, and then I equate money to worldly pleasures, right? House, a car, whatever you think you need. Um, that's a big, you know, driver and enforcer of what people eventually do, and it divorces you off from your swadharma, right? Or what you think is the right. I think some of us can also discern what's the right thing to do versus am I doing this for money or satisfaction or whatnot. But money just plays so much role in terms of the end decisions that you end up making.
But I think what you have to what I think I take away from this is that's not a bad thing. It's the reality of the world. See, the way we should look at the Gita and its message is not, Gita is not out there to change the world. It's not saying read the Gita to change the world. Gita is out there to help a person who wants to change himself.
Mhm.
That's all Gita is doing. So if you're saying that 99% of the world is follows money, it's a fact. Always been a fact. That's what samsara is. 99% of the world is samsari. So we should not be surprised by this. Nor should we say that that's a bad thing, because it's not a bad thing. This is samsara. This is what samsara means. And because it is, now you're looking at it, now that you are out of samsara a little bit and you're thinking about the Gita and you're looking for another viewpoint, you can look back and say, oh, that is the wrong way to do this. But it's a wrong way to do this. That's why you've chosen to get on this path. If it was the right way to do, you'd just be a samsari. So I'm saying, and I emphasize this because when we start passing judgment on the world and say the world is bad, we are diverting ourselves from our path, literally, because we are judging. We have to say the way to think about this, to get samatvam, to get the peace that Gita is asking you to get, to make progress, is to say, I understand that the world is the way it is. I understand and I'm accepting of the fact that I was like that too. And I still am like that. and that's fine. I can blame my parents, but then my parents in turn can blame their parents, and their parents can blame their parents. It's not like there was any particular person who is to blame. We can blame society, but society is only consisting of people like us. We are part of society. We can't blame society. It's the question is not about society or about the world or about anything else. The question is about you, ourselves, me. So I have to accept all that and then say, okay, I am at a stage where I don't want to live like this. I want to try something different. So what can I do to try something different? How can I follow the precepts of the Gita? So we can either have a discussion on Swadharma and say, Swadharma में it's because of this reason that Swadharma में problem होती है, India में ऐसी problems थी, America में ये problems हैं, वो problems हैं. We can do all that. That's armchair philosophy, in my view. We can come up with reasons, but to what use? The point is, as far as you are concerned at this point, I mean, I'm talking about myself. As far as I am concerned at this point, does it help me with my Karam Yoga? It does. It tells me if today even I feel I am not getting pleasure in my work, I have to examine that. The world may not examine or may examine, doesn't matter. Because I also have spent all these years without examining. So this is not, Gita is not about judgment. It's about uh, a guide to someone who says, okay, I want to change. How do I change? Because remember, all this world, however filthy and distressing and disgusting it might seem to us, is Ishwar. That's the big message of Gita. If
Yeah,
we
the
don't accept this world, we are not accepting Ishwar.
mm,
We are casting a judgment on Ishwar.
yeah, the point that I think I agree with you. I mean,
Yeah.
I think there is nothing uh, to complain about there or argue. I think the thing that I was saying is if, for example, we or the society we grew up in, right, actually shared this kind of balanced view that we are learning today, right, we could all have been happier or would have
Or who
tested that path
don't you
too.
think that the society is sharing this balanced view with you? It has been sharing this balanced view with you right from the beginning. The difference is not the society. What I'm trying to say is the difference is you.
You no, I get it.
You are now receptive, you're seeking that view. This
Yeah.
is not new. I'm part of the society. If I'm sharing it with you, it's through society. And they're everywhere. So, I mean, you are the guy, or I'm okay, sorry. I am the guy, because I'm learning it now, who was interested in money and thought money is my answer. I decided to do IIM. I came to America. I did all these things because I thought money was my answer. Gita was all around me. I never paid attention to it. I said, rather than pay attention to Gita, why not learn something more which can be better for my job? That's what I did. I chose to do that. I can't blame the world. I can't blame society. My mom and parents and all and everybody was giving me input. I chose the input that I wanted. It's absolutely my doing. I can even blame my karmas. It's up to me, you know. If I choose to blame my karmas and that's the path I want to take, it's up to me. If I choose to say, forget about the past, I'm here right now, this is what I want to do, this is my path through happiness. I forget about all apportioning blame. I forget about getting to root causes because that's a unlimited exercise. There is never a root cause. For any root cause you come up, there'll be a root cause for that also. So I'm done with root causes. I'm done with analysis. Here's where I am. I want to lead the rest of my life differently. Gita is in front of me. I choose to follow. It's up to us.
What from my own personal experience, what I can
Hmm.
say is I wish I had all this knowledge when I was growing up to really make sure I was thinking all aspects of what is happiness and what isn't happiness, right? And that's what I'm trying to point at.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to blame anybody or
No, no,
anything,
I
right? We
understand.
are,
I
yeah.
think
So
I think
that's the thing that I'm
you're
missing.
expressing an emotion. You're expressing a desire,
Maybe,
right?
but we were taught certain truths about life, which is always speak the truth, always help other people, right? There are those kinds of things that we were taught. But I wish we had been given a little bit more exposure to what is happiness and what is true happiness, and who you are at an earlier age, so that we could have lived even
So
better
okay, then
lives.
okay, I'm gonna the reason I'm struggling with that a little bit because
Mhm.
and I'm struggling with that because I think you're an extremely intelligent person. So that is why I want to even have this sort of nuanced discussion with you, honestly. Otherwise, I won't even.
Yeah.
So let's say that society told you when you were when you were young that the way to success is money. Now society is telling you the way to success is Karam Yoga, right? Gita is telling you the way to success is Karam Yoga. Let's say now you say, okay, now I will follow the Gita. My point is, you might end up with another disappointment. You followed what society told you earlier, you got disappointed. Now you'll follow what Gita tells you may again get disappointed. Because the results of what Gita, you may say, I'm being a Karam Yogi, but I'm not getting any joy out of it. So, and you might, because Gita doesn't say, follow what I'm saying. Gita says, think,
Mhm.
use your brains, use your judgment, and try to figure out. I'm giving you all this framework. I'm giving you this sort of another way of looking at things, and I'm telling you, you know, maybe that consider the fact that the happiness is coming from your own self. It's not coming from external entity. It's giving you a sort of a hint. But if you choose not to think about it and say, I'm going to follow this because Gita is telling me, you have not understood what it really means to say that happiness is coming from within. Because you still think of happiness as something tangible, and a source is giving you the happiness, the source may be within, and you still may not get the message of the Gita. I mean it. I'm not just arguing, honestly. So the only option is to say, I don't want to listen to society, and I don't even want to listen to Gita. I'm getting what Gita is giving me as input, and I'm going to decide for myself what really is making sense. The reason why we are in the state we are in is not because our parents gave us the wrong education. It's because we failed to think for ourselves. As children, we never thought for ourselves. And whatever the world told us, we just accept it.
Yeah, but I think at an early age, when you're going through your formative years as a child, right? I mean, if you get exposure to these things, then you will think about it, right? Maybe not with the maturity that we do now, because we have experienced a lot more, right? And we can actually relate to certain things. What is success, what's failure, what's happiness, and you can do that kind of thinking.
Yeah. No, no. I mean, if
uh,
you're saying we should be exposed to the Gita at an earlier age,
yeah, yeah,
no,
that's
no,
what
I
I'm
mean, there's
saying,
nothing
is if
to
we
argue.
would have actually maybe have
But
stepped
the
back
point I was
and
trying to make was, what
It's
I
a
was trying to make
big,
was, I feel, I mean, and I'm putting myself in your shoes because I'm trying to look at my own self and how I looked at it. I feel at some point we have to stop thinking about, and maybe you are not, maybe you're just saying this. So this is a separate point. Think about it as a separate point from my side, which I'm offering to you guys. Is that at some stage we have to stop thinking about ऐसा होता तो वैसा होता, अगर मैं ये कर देता तो ये बेटर हो जाती, दुनिया में अगर ये होता तो बेटर हो जाती, because nothing changes the world. Rather than doing that, just say, this is where I am. This is just suggestion. This is where I am. There is good reason for why I am here. There is a whole lot of circumstances which have put me here. I don't know all the reasons. I don't know all the good things, all the bad things. I'm not smart enough to put it all together. But here, this is where I am. Now, for me, focus completely on me. What is my path? What do I want to do? Because if we don't have that focus, it'll be very hard. This is what I'm saying. That's all. Nothing.
And I
That is
don't
my,
disagree with you.
yeah,
I mean, I'm not spending a lot of time, but
yeah.
as you learn something new and you see the impact of that, you always kind of wonder, why did this knowledge not come earlier to me so I could have been even happier, right? That's the kind
So
of framework.
part
I
of the
I
knowledge.
want
Yeah,
to add.
yeah, please.
I
Yeah,
want to
add.
add
Yeah.
that it is, even if at that time you were told and you were I mean, all this thing was, it is not necessary that you would have listened to this and agreed
I
with it
I,
and followed it.
no, I agree
I
with you
think there's
there
a
too.
right time for
Yeah,
everything, because I've gone
yeah,
through this personally.
yeah.
My
Maybe you just have
my
to live through life
Yeah,
as much to
yeah,
really differentiate good from
yes,
the bad, right? By
and
yourself, right?
yeah.
Um, uh, Remember, there were influences like Brother John who take moral science, right? And there were influences like that, which I think helped some of us kind of differentiate between what's right from what's not right. I still think that exposure to something like this, whether we follow the path or not, right? Having the knowledge, makes you revisit these things throughout your lifetime, right? And so that's what I'm trying to drive at is I didn't see a lot of this very relevant impact, from an early stage of life. But again, that's gone is gone. I mean, you are where you are, and you you are, yeah.
In fact, I would say that whatever you're saying, you just mentioned, all these things, whatever we listen right from childhood, they are somewhere, they leave their mark, and our personalities are formed
Based on
with all those things, nurturing of all those small things from Brother John or Brother Joseph or whatever, from all the people that we come in contact with, our teachers, our parents and family, from wherever we listen to all these values and everything, they do mm, become a part of our personality. Subtly, we may not even realize it, but I think it is there. And I can feel those subtle things, I think, in all our batchmates, at least in our batchmates. That core, the values are there in all 17 of us, I think, which we got from our school.
And Rajiv, actually, I was just thinking, like, you must have got some exposure to Vedanta early on somewhere because you wouldn't be here otherwise. Like, what brought you here? Like, if you look at all our classmates and everybody around us, most people
Uh,
are not at your age. You're probably one of the very few who have such a commitment and understanding of Vedanta.
No, I think in our generation, our families had even a very large role to play to
Huh.
get exposed to everything. You see,
Correct.
हमारी जो mothers or दादियाँ or
Huh.
dadas, they were too much into bhakti yog, if you
Right.
see. तो वो सब भक्ति की चीजें, वो सब जैसे सत्संग हो गया, घर में सत्संग हो गया, लेडीज इकट्ठे हो गई, ये हो गया, तो कुछ ना कुछ तो अंदर जाता ही रहा है ना।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल एंड कुछ वेदांता का भी होगा जरूर उन्हें कुछ फिलोसफी का
हाँ,
भी
जरूर
होगा
जरूर होगा।
because
एंड
otherwise
दे
why
आर
is
ऑल
it there's only
बेस्ड ऑन
these five of
वेदांता
us are
ओनली।
here you know
हाँ, then you
and
see,
amongst two big batches only five who are really following through and you guys are following through with a lot of commitment.
हम्म।
Three
नहीं वही
passions.
Yeah,
बात है
three
कि
men.
आई वुड second Rajiv's opinion that if we had been exposed to this Vedantic knowledge, maybe not we wouldn't have been impressed so much as we are today, or we are gathering information, trying to follow, but little by little, little by little.
Right, right.
Another big question is the regret we are having.
Yeah.
How can we transfer this knowledge to our kids so that they are exposed to it at a younger age
That's a
and
good one.
that
take the
is
benefit?
Yeah.
You
that is
see,
what actually I didn't say it. I was just thinking when Rajiv was
thinking,
talking
yeah,
कि आज अगर अभी हम अपने बच्चों को कहें भी ना बताएं, they are not ready
हाँ,
to listen and come
नहीं नहीं
and
वो तो कहें
listen to all this.
बकवास है ये क्या है हाँ
Exactly.
हाँ
Because they are उनका अभी अपना टाइम उनका आएगा जब आएगा तब
हाँ
आएगा
हाँ,
But
तो वही
you know,
हमारा था.
I mean, I can share this with you that I think that my children, they seem to be much more intelligent about certain things, like money is not the most important thing, just like Dheeraj was saying, right?
Yeah, that's
It's,
good.
I'm more, I want to do what I want to do, and I want to do what gives me happiness, right? I think maybe some of us have gone through that kind of decision making and um, um, in our childhood, and we just thought differently at that time. I don't know why. I, so
I would say your children are born and brought up in US.
yeah,
हम्म।
So the difference that Dheeraj said that in US, this and what how we think in India, the things are different.
yeah.
That also makes the difference. The culture they have been brought up, the peer pressures,
नहीं
peer
कल्चर
groups,
नहीं देखो ना at what
society.
level children are starting today and
Yeah.
at what level we started.
Hmm.
ठीक
Yes.
है अब most of us started from scratch. ठीक है
Yeah.
तो that choice के I want to do what I feel like doing was
Hmm.
not there. The first choice
True.
was you have to be financially very sound, and now these children, they don't lack anything. That money factor doesn't play a big role in their lives,
Yeah,
which
that's
used to
true.
yeah. So that's the difference.
They don't feel insecure. I mean, they are never
Yeah.
thinking that,
Yeah.
yeah, they kind of assume I'll have enough to live.
Hmm.
But that's not true of most people in India. I mean, now it may have changed,
Yeah, things have changed
things have
you
to
changed.
know,
some extent, but still.
I had a funny thought. If Atul Minocha was here, he would say, "Oh yeah, I think I would have wanted this tool in my life much."
But this tool, yes, I would have wanted a tool.
Yeah, I want a tool, and I want
Yeah,
to.
I'm a tool and I want a
I
tool.
wish I could have used this tool much earlier in my life.
Yeah. But one thing we can do, I think, which, okay, now let's say children ko chodo. What we can do is we can do our part in progressing the parampara, which is we can all think about teaching at some stage, in whichever way it feels right to us. Because that will be really giving back a knowledge which is very sort of useful, which
अभी
we found useful.
वो
Eventually, whenever you're ready.
in fact, Rajiv, in when we started this group, when we were 12, at least 10, 12 people were there in the group.
Hmm.
And now we are, I mean, निधि और आपने तो बाद में ज्वाइन किया. अब हमारे बैच में से at least 10, 12 people were there, but finally only two of us are here, plus
True.
Dheeraj, of course. So they were there. They had the opportunity to continue in this group, get this knowledge, but धीरे धीरे it phased out in whatsoever way. So
नहीं दैट
it's
मुक्ता फोर्स ऑफ माया बहुत बड़ा फैक्टर होता है
yes,
अब
true.
मतलब आई नो हाउ मच एफर्ट आई एम पुटिंग to come back from work and take this class
Yeah,
Yes,
because I am really
yes,
interested, really
yes.
interested.
yeah.
My work doesn't matter to me. my
Mm.
tiredness, and I just pull up my body and sit here for 1.5 hours because that interest is so much. Yeah.
Yeah, वही
तो बट
वही
जो
मेरे को लगता
रूटीन,
है.
हाँ रूटीन में है ना वो, इट्स वेरी इजीली यू गेट सक्ड इन योर वर्क, एंड वो कहते हैं
Yeah,
ठीक है यार वो.
They don't
depends on how much
they don't
importance
get
you are
value.
giving to it.
You're
Yeah,
getting
how much
value
value
from it,
you
you
are
know.
giving.
You're getting benefit from it. That's the thing. So Sanjay is like, I mean, I always felt, and you were always like very much into Karam Yoga and controlling your own,
Mm.
controlling yourself, and you have a very clear purpose. That's what you want to do. You're measuring yourself. You're saying, okay, now I am better than before. I'm controlling whatever. So you are on a track. So there's, you
नहीं,
know,
all these classes have given a lot of clarity also, no?
right.
Clarity, what all, where you are going wrong also, the
Mm.
classes are telling us how
Right,
you can improve, what
right,
is your ultimate aim.
right,
You
right,
see,
right. Yeah,
वो मनी वाला तो खत्म हो गया ना फंडा, वो मतलब वो दैट एम इज नो मोर देयर.
yeah,
वी आर
yeah.
वो
लुकिंग,
हमारी स्टेज वो हो चुकी
हाँ,
है पार.
बियॉन्ड दैट ना. हाँ, वही है.
And I feel the same about Rajiv also, right?
हम्म.
Because Rajiv also, this is like a new batch to you. We never even knew each other. I mean, we knew each other only by name and face once in a while.
Mhm.
But other than Sanjay, but you have continued also. I don't think you guys have
Yeah,
missed any class. Kiki, you, everybody. So that has I think something from the society or something has worked for you when it comes to Vedanta, which hasn't worked for the others, and that's the point.
I
And
think
like,
I'm sorry I'm interrupting, but I
no,
have
no,
I have I have I mean a kind of conclusion or whatever for myself.
uh,
I feel कि क्योंकि मैंने बहुत I've gone through all these phases a number of times, and मुझे लगता है कि हर चीज का ना हमारे लिए एक वही वो कर्मा कह लो या जो भी कह लो, ग्रेस कह लो उसको, कि एक टाइम होता है जब ये चीज होनी होती है ना जिसके साथ, तभी होती है, उससे पहले नहीं होती. बिकॉज आई आई हैव द मेरे पे प्रेशर था कि करो, गेट इनटू द स्पिरिचुअल दिस थिंग. आई हैड, यू कांट इमेजिन हाउ मच प्रेशर आई हैड टू डू ऑल दिस. आई डिडंट डू इट. आई डिडंट गेट इनटू इट. आई वुड, बट देन फिर अपने आप से जब मेरे को लगा कुछ किसी चीज में इंटरेस्ट आया, किसी एक पर्टिकुलर उसमें, आई वेंट एंड अटेंडेड दो देयर दिस थिंग, एक जगह, दूसरी जगह, तीसरी जगह, देन थोड़े दिन का जोश होता था, देन अगेन इट वुड फेज आउट. बट देन यहाँ पर बस एक हो गया अब तो. आई थिंक इट वाज द टाइम एंड ग्रेस वट एवर.
I was going to say, Kiki, what about you? Like, how do you feel about this? Do you feel that you got exposed early enough? You were pretty young when you got exposed, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, we both had the same exposure through
No,
Sarla
but
Master.
I
I
mean,
think it
I
was
think
just,
like you've been talking to Carol. You've been for a while, like, right? I mean, and that was at that time we were not talking about Vedanta together much, you know,
yeah. I
because you're
think,
also very
so
consistent.
if I
You're
think of
consistent,
like this, when we spoke about Swadharma
right?
and we spoke about careers,
Right.
and there's nothing like I'm one of those people, there's nothing is for me very clear, even should it be liberal art, should it be science, should it be nothing. The only thing that's been clear is just this, that I have interest in this,
In Vedanta,
yeah,
even in Vedanta,
in
or in this meaning in your
spirituality and in
in IT.
self-knowledge.
Oh, okay. But in terms of how, so but that's the self knowledge is different than Karam Yoga, right?
I said, yes. Well,
So you have
self-knowledge is
interest in
different
self
from
knowledge, is
Karma
what you're
Yoga, but
saying. But you're
Karma
not
Yoga
saying I
is
have
the,
interest in Karam Yoga.
what's that?
You didn't say you have interest in Karam Yoga. You said interest in self knowledge.
Yeah, but I mean, because of that interest, other things, prerequisites are getting aligned now. Various prerequisites are getting aligned. It kind of, if there's that, then everything else sort of gets oriented
towards.
towards
So you
that.
know now that in order to get Karam Yoga, to get self knowledge, you have no doubt that Karam Yoga is an essential part.
Yeah, I have no doubt that I think no, whatever we define as karma yoga, like
Yeah.
everything that we do in life, it doesn't matter that much.
Okay.
Honestly, it doesn't even matter. All the definitions also don't matter. It just
Mhm.
matters that, yeah.
Okay. Chalo. So good for today.
Yeah.
Sanjay, time to sleep.
Yeah.
It's
No, no,
really
I'm
nice
okay.
to hear from
ठीक है.
everyone. It's nice
Hmm.
to have a discussion together.
Hmm.
I get the message.
What's that?
No, no, no. Just kidding.
You have to sharpen your on the spot skills to
Yeah.
make sure nobody is going wrong on the wrong track.
Yes, you were in my shoes today, Rajiv.
Maybe it's because of the new year. Stars are aligning differently. We'll see.
I mean, I kind of, this is my thing. Sometimes I'm too blunt. I mean, so if I ever am too blunt, please, in advance, I beg your pardon.
I don't
Because
think it's a matter of
You
being
don't
blunt.
need to.
I think it's a matter of just not actually maybe listening to like it's not blunt. I think
Yeah,
no,
maybe
but
it's
Sanjay
I
or
think I
somebody
was
else comes
no,
from a
no,
different
no.
angle and you answer the question from a different angle than
Right,
the
right, right.
comment
Because
that was
because
intended.
I'm yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think I'm listening to more than the words of the person. That's what is happening. And I can make a wrong conclusion based on that.
In last 4 years, I don't remember ever seeing you blunt from any angle, any comment.
I have
No,
seen you
no.
being blunt.
क्या What you say? Sorry. क्या कहा किकी तूने?
मैंने कहा I have seen you being blunt.
maybe with you he's more open and
Yes. I think the bluntness is only from like this extreme desire to help. You know, I
yeah.
know this, let me set this right for you, like that.
No, no, it's
Yeah.
true because I've like I feel that I have been through this.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
seems to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's very possible that I've been through this, but I'm a different human being. You guys are different and you may be doing it thing differently. So, for example, for today, for instance, like about Rajiv, the reason I think I was so forthright or blunt is for two things. First, I'm not blunt with people I don't think, I don't extremely respect, you know, because otherwise there's no point. Like, what's the point of having an argument with someone who's not going to get anything, right? But the other thing is that I myself have found myself in this situation very often, which is like a few years ago, where I start thinking of Vedanta. There are two things. One is I start thinking of Vedanta as a way to change the world. Or I say, I wish I had done things differently. I wish my life was different. I wish I had not gone to IIM and I had continued with engineering and just been an engineer. Or I wish I had followed this path, all these things. And the second thing I find is I've also found very often using Vedanta as a crutch, me personally. Like I feel there was a time very early in my life when I used to feel I get depressed. I'm not able to face this world. I feel like a misfit in this world. And okay, then I go to Vedanta. And you know what Vedanta does is it talks about the cosmos, it talks about big picture. So your little problems get lost in that big picture, right? So I have had both of these. And I see when Kiki talks about things like that a little bit, almost see myself there and say, okay, I don't want her to go the same way. And when Rajiv was talking about or even you, Sanjay, when you talk about, I wish things were different, I wish it was that, I realize that this can become a hurdle, um, if indeed we are focused on the external world rather than focused on within ourselves. And maybe you guys are not. That's the thing.
Yes.
but
Yes.
I just want to make doubly sure that if you are, I tell you, from my point of view, I've done my bit. That's what it is. But anyway, it's something for me to work on.
Let me just add one
Yeah,
additional
yeah,
thing.
please.
What I'm from my own personal perspective,
Yeah.
before I went to Vedanta, I
Mm.
didn't even know who I am. See, if you don't know who you are, right, or if you're not introduced to the concepts of Vedanta of who you really are, you can't even think about it.
Yeah.
I'll leave you guys at that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's what I'm saying is, if somebody had exposed us to this, maybe the journey to Vedanta may have started earlier. And that's all.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is, and we've lived our lives and
Yeah, yeah,
whatnot,
yeah.
right? You don't cry over spilled milk, right? But that's where I was coming from is, if I don't know who I am and my parents have taken the bhakti path, right? Then there is, the proof is right there in the pudding. What do I learn? What do I compare life to? What do I compare my experience to? How do I differentiate between material happiness versus tangible, everlasting happiness that comes from this knowledge? So that's
Yeah, yeah.
where I come from.
I mean, I don't think any harm would be done by introducing Vedanta earlier, right? Whether how much is the benefit, we can all argue.
Yeah.
But
But Rajiv, it's also possible to think of this with the framework of gratitude for where we are now.
Absolutely. I mean, I would be the first one to admit that I am so glad, that this thing came whenever it came, and maybe that was
Yeah.
meant to be, right? I'm
Yeah.
not fighting it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, um, yeah.
But there is a small regret, but we were exposed to it a bit later.
I'm grateful, but I wish I could be
Ah,
that this grace had been given earlier.
ah,
Good thing it happened in this lifetime. So many
ah.
lifetimes have gone, it didn't happen.
All
Yeah.
right, chalo, let's call it a night or day.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
You.
Okay, bye bye.
Right.
Bye bye.